Okay, welcome. I'm Jeff Wiren with Premier Property Group LLC and past chair of UREF Forms Committee and current chair of RMLS for 2017. And I'm happy to be talking to you guys today about MLS Connect and MLS Push. What we're going to do is talk primarily about MLS Push. And what that does is provide you the opportunity to have the quickest means to prepare an offer for your client as you possibly can. So if you're an RMLS member, you can start in the RMLS and create through an agent full report the transaction that will push right into zip forms, and from zip forms then fill in all of the data for your client, and then from there push into DocuSign or your DigiSign or whatever your digital signature preference is. So I'm going to walk you through how I do this process on my computer. You should be able to see this on the screen behind me. And so I'm going to log into RMLS as we sit. Okay. For the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to go find one of my own listings because I know that MLS number. So you're going to see an agent full report behind me, okay? If you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the report, you see all these buttons down here. And there's many useful buttons. There's a link right to RPR. There's Shack Shout, Find Property, Schools, and Community Information. But the OREF button at the very bottom is the button that you want to push. That will drive you, single sign you on right into zip forms, okay? So this is going to push the IDX feed for that property right into zip forms, and you can see that happening right now. Takes it a minute. What it's going to do is automatically create the transaction. The transaction will be titled by the address of the transaction, and it takes you right to the OREF cover sheet. Okay, so you can see that what it did is put us right into that transaction cover sheet. Now, I'm an advocate for using templates in zip forms, and I want to show you how to do that. So because it's already pushed you in through the transaction into the cover sheet, you need to take one step back, and you need to apply template if you're using templates. Choose the template you want to apply, click apply, okay? And then you can drill back into the cover sheet and you'll see that the data is automatically filled in there. For example, the seller name, and that's a recent change. We just made that a required field, so that is an IDX feed that comes into the system now, and that's new. And then all of the property information for the listing broker, because it's my listing, I show up as the listing broker. Because I had my information put in as the selling broker on my template, I also show up as the selling broker. And then you can see that it automatically puts in all of the property information, the MLS number, the address, the legal description, the list price, all of that stuff. So all of that information would come over if you were using MLS Connect. So if you had started the transaction in zip forms and gone back out through MLS Connect to pull in this data, it's the same data. This just gives you the opportunity to start from RMLS Web, push into zip forms, and then push to DocuSign instead of having to start the transaction in zip forms and then go back out and pull the data from RMLS. Okay, so I'm going to put in some basic information here. And we're going to then push this into a transaction. It's already in the transaction, so I just put in some information on the cover sheet. This is where you'd put in buyer's name, property, how much they're offering for the property, your sale agreement number, title company, all the blank fields, right, that you need to put in order to make your offer complete. You're going to see if I start drilling into some of these other documents that I use the template very heavily. I automatically check the buyer and seller exclusive button, for example. I automatically check the deed box because I don't do very many contracts. So when you create templates within the zip form system, anything you do to a document in that template is saved as part of that template and will apply to any transaction you create that you apply the template to. So a lot of this stuff is in here already. The financing contingency timelines, I don't like to leave those blank, so I fill them out. I know that my buyers are primarily going to be asking for a home inspection and potentially a radon test and a sewer scope, so this is automatically filled out in my template. If I wanted to add anything or change anything, I certainly could, but all of that information is here. Okay, so I've used the template very effectively. I have the transaction now created. I don't want to add any forms necessarily. Most of you are very familiar, I assume, with how to take the transaction from this point and put it into DocuSign or DigiSign or whatever the signature system is that you're using. But for those of you who maybe haven't tried that before, you can go here on this e-sign button. You're going to click on that and you're going to create a signature packet. Now you have to have put in your login credentials for DocuSign or for DigiSign into the zip form system so it knows how to single sign you on to DocuSign at this point. But provided that you have done that, then you can go through here now and select the documents that you want to be included in that package. You can browse your computer for additional documents. So for example, I have a company disclosure that we require to be included. So I'll find that in my forms on my computer and I'll add that in. Okay? If you wanted to add in the pre-approval letter, for example, or if you wanted to add in the client full report so your client can initial it. Things like that that you might want included in that package, you can add them here before you push the documents over to DocuSign. You can add them later, but you can add them now. Now, it's going to say next. It's going to default any information that you have put in. So if I had put in seller information or buyer information into the cover sheet on OREF, that buyer information, buyer 1 and buyer 2, would be here. It would show up here, their name, and it would show up here, their email address. If I had put that information in the cover sheet, all I would need to do is select, I want buyer 1, buyer 2 to sign. I want to sign it as the selling agent. I need to sign the offer that I've received the earnest money, so I'm going to go ahead and check myself there. So now you can see that DocuSign, when it comes through, is going to create for the fields for these signers. You have two options here. You can either click Next or you can click on Options. If you click Next, it's going to push all the way in through the transaction in DocuSign to the first document to tag for signatures. It will, by default, set a signing order of buyer 1, buyer 2, and then you. So buyer 2 won't get the documents to sign until buyer 1 has signed them. You won't be able to sign the documents until both of your clients have signed them. I don't like that. I like all parties to get all documents at the same time. So I'm going to go to Options instead of clicking Next. And because I have a Mac, I get a pop-up error window, but that's all right. I'm going to click Continue and go right through it. I'm sure that some technical person who's out there watching knows how to fix that problem, but I don't. You can see that I use templates in DocuSign as well, so I'm going to eliminate those for now because that's not what this class is about. But you can see that all of my documents now are here in DocuSign, loaded. The signing order is set as I've described, buyer 1 first, then buyer 2, and then me as the selling agent. I do not want that signing order, so I'm going to uncheck the signing order. You can see that the message line, the subject line, is the property address because that's the file name in zip forms that was created when you pushed the document from RMLS over. So I'm just going to say, hey, we're making an offer here. Okay? I'm going to do that. Now I'm going to click Next. Error message because I didn't put in buyer 1 and buyer 2 and their email. If I do that, I'm just going to do test and I'll put my email address in there just to be able to move this forward. Okay, great. I'm going to do that. Okay, well, it's not going to allow me to. We're going to skip that for now. This would, when you put that information in, it would allow you to push through to the actual tagging, and the tagging would be automatically set through zip forms. Okay, so that is how MLS MLS push merges in with zip forms and then merges you all the way through to electronic signature. I want to quickly show you the transaction that gets created in zip forms. You can see this now here. It shows the property address. There is my file for this property that got created when I pushed the information in from RMLS. If you are not an RMLS member, you might check with your local multiple listing service to see what features they have. I believe that most of the multiple listing services throughout the state have MLS Connect tailored in with zip forms. Some may not. but there are ways for you to do that and account for that. So check that out with your MLS service if you're not an RMLS subscriber or if you have never heard of this feature. It's very slick, gives you the opportunity to quickly draft an offer for your client and not have to sign into multiple apps to get it all the way through the DocuSign signature process. Thank you very much.